This week on Africa Update, Africa's relations with other regions come under the limelight as EU-AU seek to bolster relations. French President and European allies announce withdrawal from Mali. Liberia kicks off bicentennial anniversary celebrating arrival of Black Americans. Belgium takes steps towards restitution of African works of art. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Africa Update, where we review stories from across the continent. Africa's relations with other respective regions across the world came under the limelight from the Thursday to Friday at the AU-EU summit in Brussels. The president of the African Union Commission, Moussa Faki Mahamat, reiterated the need for the African continent to strengthen its bond with the European Union for better economic progress. The summit has brought together close to 40 leaders from different African countries as the EU is seeking to solidify its economic partners around the world amidst Russia and China's influence in Africa. The EU is aiming to convince the 40 African leaders in Brussels that Europe is their most reliable partner by fleshing out an investment initiative that aims to mobilize 150 billion euros of public and private funds over the next 7 years. On his arrival at the Brussels summit on Thursday, Senegalese President Macky Sall said that there were still differences over the financing of fossil fuels, a sensitive issue as to how far the EU can go in financing projects. France's top court closed a probe into the 1994 shooting down of the Rwandan presidential plane. The Cour de Cassation in France closed a probe into the plane attack that killed former Rwandan President Habyarimana on the eve of the genocide. On Tuesday, the French highest court dismissed an appeal by the relatives of the April 1994 victims. When family members of the French flight crew brought their case to the court in 1998, they suspected Rwandan soldiers and close Kagame aides, including Rose Kaboye, of being behind the attack. However, the Cour de Cassation found no sufficient charges against anyone for committing the alleged crimes nor any other infraction, confirming the 2020 decision of the Court of Appeal of Paris and dismissing French magistrate Jim Loy's conclusions when he began his probe 22 years ago. Meanwhile, French President and European allies announced their withdrawal from Mali on Thursday, vowing to remain in Sahel. According to the French General Staff, around 2,500 to 3,000 French soldiers will remain in the Sahel following their withdrawal from Mali. That should take place within a 6-month period. French President Emmanuel Macron announced the strategic move after talks with European counterparts participating in the fight against terrorism. A working dinner had gathered Sahelian presidents and EU leaders to discuss the matter. In a statement, they mentioned multiple obstructions by the transitional government of Mali. Meanwhile, Niger has accepted that French and European special forces will be deployed into its territory from neighboring Mali in order to secure the border area with the West African state, Niger's president said on Twitter on Friday. In his first comments since France said on Thursday that it will leave Mali alone with its military allies, President Mohamed Bazoum said that the forces will be able to respond to threats from terrorist groups in the area. Some 2,400 French troops that were part of the forces deployed in Mali to combat groups linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State, and around 900 special forces in the French-led Takuba Task Force are expected to leave Mali in the coming months. Burkina Faso's military leader, Paul-Henri Damiba, has been sworn in as president on Wednesday, weeks after leading a successful coup, and he promised to deal with the mounting insecurity that helped oust his predecessor. Damiba led a military junta that on January 24th overthrew President Roch Kabore, citing Kabore's inability to curb terrorism that has killed thousands of people and forced more than 1 million people to flee their homes in West African country. The lieutenant colonel, who had little public profile before he appeared on state television last month to announce the takeover, opened his speech with a moment of silence for the civilians and soldiers killed in the fight against militants. He said he will reorganize the armed forces to strengthen the link between the intelligence service and field operations and will make logistical support more flexible. Damiba has not said how long he plans to hold power, but has promised to work with Regional Bloc, the economic community of West African states, towards a return to democratic elections. Now, Ethiopia's parliament voted for an early end to a 6-month state of emergency effective immediately, adding to signs that a bloody conflict between the government and rebellious Tigrayan forces could be easing. The war in Africa's second-largest nation has largely ground to a stalemate, and diplomats helping to mediate between the two sides are cautiously optimistic that the progress towards peace is being made. The state of emergency gave the government power to detain citizens without charge and search homes without a warrant. Thousands of Tigrayan civilians were rounded up and held in prisons and warehouses. Ethiopia imposed the order in November after Tigrayan forces invaded 2 other regions, threatening the capital. Parliament's decision to lift the state of emergency came 3 weeks after cabinet approval. The move was welcomed by the U.S. State Department as an important step. It called for the immediate release of all those arrested or detained without charge under the state of emergency. Now, separatist rebels from Senegal's southern Casamance region on Monday handed over 7 Senegalese soldiers whom they had captured 3 weeks ago, AFP reporters saw, demanding nothing in return. The soldiers were taken across the border to an area near the Gambian village of Bajagar and delivered to officials from the Gambian government and the West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, according to AFP correspondents present. The freed hostages appeared in good health and left the area in Red Cross jeeps. The charity stated that it had visited the soldiers in captivity and provided medical care. The release comes after a clash between the fighters from the Movement of Democratic Forces of Casamance and Senegalese army on January 24th. 4 Senegalese soldiers were killed while 7 were captured alive. Senegal's military said that the incident occurred during an operation to combat illegal logging on the border with the Gambia. Now, more than 100 Sudanese detainees, including high-profile politicians, began a hunger strike on Tuesday, allied lawyers and doctors said. The detainees are part of the protest movement against an October 25th army coup that ended a civilian-military power-sharing arrangement that followed the overthrow of long-ruling autocrat President Omar al-Bashir in 2019. The coup prompted mass protests during which 81 people have been killed, most recently 2 on Monday, and more than 2,000 injured, according to the Central Committee of Sudanese Doctors. The group said separately that 1 suspect in the killing of a police brigadier general had been tortured, while another was in solitary confinement. Civilian politicians Khalid Omer Yusuf and Wagdi Salih were taking part in the hunger strike, said Abdul Qayyum Awad, a member of Yusuf's Sudanese Congress Party. The men face corruption charges apparently stemming from their work on a task force dismantling the network of Bashir. Now, unions counted the numbers of suspended teachers in Zimbabwe at 135,000 out of the roughly 140,000 employed in public schools after a pay dispute between teachers and the government. Rural Teachers Union of Zimbabwe filed at the High Court challenging the 3-month suspension. Finding a school open is now a lottery in Zimbabwe. After a strike by teachers entered a new week, the Education Ministry suspended the strikers on Thursday. With approximately 90% of teachers in public schools suspended, some schools were abandoned altogether by pupils and teachers when in other parts of the country, happy few could go on with their curriculum. Since schools opened for the first time of the new year, many teachers did not report for work. They said they could no longer afford the commute from their home to the classroom. Now, a South African judge on Wednesday dismissed a bid by former President Jacob Zuma to appeal an earlier ruling rejecting his attempt to have the prosecutor in his arms deal corruption trial taken off the case for alleged bias. The judgment means Zuma's trial will move forward on April 11th. Zuma, ousted as head of state in 2018 after 9 years in power, has pleaded not guilty to charges of corruption, money laundering and racketeering in a long-running case of over a $2 billion arms deal in the 1990s. Zuma has claimed that he is the victim of a political witch hunt orchestrated by allies of President Cyril Ramaphosa, a charge Ramaphosa has denied. Last year, Zuma was sentenced to 15 months in prison for defying an order to participate in a corruption inquiry. He was released on medical parole, but a court later ruled he should return to jail. Zuma has appealed that ruling. You're watching Africa Update on Trust Television. Coming up shortly. South Africa offers grocery vouchers to encourage COVID-19 vaccination. Details and more after the break. Thanks for saying you're watching Africa Update on Trust Television. Here is a look at the top stories again. Africa's relations with other regions come under the limelight as EU-AU seek to bolster relations. French President and European allies announce withdrawal from Mali. Moving on now, Germany's BioNTech has developed a vaccine factory made from shipping containers that it plans to ship to Africa as assembly kits to ease what the World Health Organization has described as huge disparities in global COVID-19 vaccine access. The factory prototype will be instrumental in helping the BioNTech firm deliver on a pledge made last year to Rwanda, South Africa, Senegal, and the African Union to secure vaccine production on the continent, where inoculation rates have fallen far behind other parts of the world. Work on the first manufacturing facility in the African Union is due to begin in mid-2022, and the first container model is expected to arrive on the continent in the second half of the year, BioNTech said in a statement. The factory, housed in 2 groups of 640-foot containers, should kick off vaccine production about 12 months after the delivery of the assembly kit. BioNTech on Wednesday presented a prototype of the 6-container model to the president of Senegal, Ghana, Rwanda, and other dignitaries, including the WHO's Director General and the German Development Minister, at its main vaccine production site in Marburg, Germany. Meanwhile, South Africa's economic hub, Gauteng, is offering grocery vouchers to people in their 50s who have not yet received COVID-19 vaccination as a way of encouraging them to take the jab. Gauteng, which includes the capital Pretoria and the largest city Johannesburg, accounts for the majority of COVID-19 cases in the country with 32.4% or 1,181,117. South Africa has the highest number of COVID-19 cases on the continent, with over 3.642 million cases, representing a 6.9% increase in the positivity rate. The country has recorded 97,250 fatalities to date. Africa's most advanced economy, with a population of 60 million, has so far administered 31 million vaccine doses, and of these, 17.3 million people are fully vaccinated. Despite recording high numbers of COVID-19 cases, South Africa remains on the lowest alert level of its 5-tier system. Now, on a sad note, 2 people have died after a cargo train crashed into a truck at a railway crossing north of Zambia's capital, Lusaka. Operators of the train were killed in the accident. Donald Mwadila, police commander for Zambia's central province, told reporters. The truck was coming from Lusaka and its drivers failed to stop at a railway crossing in Kapiri Mposhi, a district some 200 kilometers from the capital. The driver was reported to have run away from the accident site, but has been arrested to face interrogation. The accident has caused a massive traffic jam in the area, with local media reporting lines of cars on either side of the Great North Road, a major thoroughfare stretching for more than a kilometer. Now, the velodrome in Kinshasa's Kintambo neighborhood rang out the howls of disbelief as thousands gathered to say farewell to 25 people killed when a high-voltage power cable snapped last week in Democratic Republic of Congo's capital. On February the 2nd, lightning struck a power cable during a heavy storm, causing it to snap and fall on houses and a market, electrocuting those below. At a ceremony attended by some of the country's top politicians, friends and family supported those lost in grief as 25 heiresses bearing the coffins are grieved. The government paid for the ceremony and donated to the families of those who died. The Union for Democracy and Social Progress Party celebrates 40 years of existence. For the first time ever, a party member leads the country, but challenges are numerous. On Tuesday, February 15th, the Union of Democracy and Social Progress Party celebrates 40 years of existence in the Republic of Congo. The anniversary of what used to be the main opposition party comes with achievements. For the first time ever, a Union for Democracy and Social Progress member is serving as president. Felix Tshisekedi is the son of one of the founding members of the party. Many challenges await the president's party. Next year's presidential and legislative elections will be a test as Tshisekedi bids to stay in power. Now, President George Weah has called on Liberians to embrace unity and reconciliation as he launched year-long celebrations of the bicentennial of the arrival of the first free black Americans in 1822. The former slaves arrived in Province Island, now the capital Monrovia, in 1822 as part of a mission by the American Colonization Society, which aimed to reduce the number of free blacks in the U.S. by settling them in Africa. The Republic of Liberia was founded in 1847, the second black republic in the world at the time after Haiti. Addressing a crowd at Monrovia's main soccer stadium that included heads of state from Togo, Niger, Gambia, and Sierra Leone, Weah celebrated Liberia's progress despite periods of civil unrest, including a 1989 to 2003 civil war in which up to 250,000 people died. Now, Belgian Prime Minister Alexander De Croo has submitted a complete inventory of Congolese works of art and artifacts which potentially could be returned to the former African colony. The list was submitted this Thursday during a visit by DRC's Prime Minister. The inventory contains around 84,000 objects divided in categories. The Belgian Prime Minister hailed the moment as a step forward in building a partnership of trust between Belgium and the Democratic Republic of Congo. The Royal Museum of Central Africa, opened in Brussels in 1898, is the legacy of Belgian King Leopold II, who ruled over Congo from 1885 onwards. The museum contains one of the world's largest collections of African objects. Now, let's take a look at this feature. Quitting his regular job to pursue fashion was a big life reset for Ismail Sakassa. But the former physiotherapist has no regrets after his Stones of Fire collection featured at the 2021 Paris Fashion Week. Back in his studio, Sakassa is hard at work again. His ambition building a new narrative both for his brand and for African fashion. Take a look.
I was scouted by a fashion agency last year, and this year I got the opportunity to showcase at Paris Fashion Week. I'm the first Zimbabwean designer to showcase at Paris Fashion Week. I started designing way back in primary school during our home economics lessons, and from there I began to nurture my talent and my skills up until I actually decided, hey, I need to take this more seriously as a business.
And with that, we've come to the end of Africa Update for this week. Join us again next week for another time on the program. Remember, you can connect with us via our social media platforms and also subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch us live. I am Ayuba Ilia. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.